Okay, welcome back. And this would be an interesting podcast, especially because it is related to Gen AI, sorry, agentic AI, right? So agentic AI, we have Gen AI which is okay, but Gen AI is good in with conversation, so it can take calls. It's good with texting, so it can take care of your email-based conversational things. And on the other hand, you have workflows, which takes care of the automation to an extent with respect to redundant activities or repetitive activities, right? Now, what is agentic AI? Agentic AI is not that mature. You can't trust much on agentic AI. It's a combination of your enterprise AI or product-based AI with the workflows, right? So you have to set up certain checkpoints, like wherever there are certain decisions where which leads to ambiguity, you have to avoid it, right? Only trusted ways, whatever so far from the beginning till now, whatever you have identified as low risk activities, which you have automated, is the only way forward. Anything apart from that should go slow, especially because these are not mature as of 23rd July 2025. So you have to avoid taking major risk in ensuring that agentic AI takes care of everything. No, you have to limit low risk, repetitive tasks, which you know for sure would come with a particular outcome, especially something related to, for example, let's say as simple as granting your access, right? So it goes through approval process. There is approval, there's a checkpoint, and then the workflow kicks in where it automates basically. So this happens via Gen AI. Like you go ahead and chat something and say, I need access to so and so. It automatically goes through the approval process. As soon as it is approved, it grants the access, access via the workflow, right? Workflow integration, working together. Basically, there is a step-by-step approach in this, and there's an approval process. It's okay. Non-approval process, low risk is still okay. But for example, let's say that a production server has to be restarted, right? Uh, in ServiceNow, it can be enabled only if you have enough data points. As in, for example, let's say you've been using ServiceNow for last 5 years, and you have identified like last 5 years there's a common problem which is resolved using just a restart of the server. This you can certainly do in agentic AI, and that's where ServiceNow will help you, right? This is one use case. All resilient IT use cases can be used here. The only problem is where it needs to be, it needs to happen in a uh, conservative way, where, for example, you can't allow firewall changes to be amended by agentic AI, right? It has to go through certain approval process. So it's better to have a checkpoint as it sends a mail or waits for an approval before it makes changes to anything related to firewall settings. It can be possible as of now. There are very less offerings. Let me put it across in a different way or for a different product. For example, uh, I had a customer come into us requesting that the enterprise storage space management should be automated, right? We were in touch with not the user of the storage, but actually as a offering from the product itself, right? So the product itself will come up with the store app, which will enable the disk maintenance with the ServiceNow App Store possible, right? Basically, it's embedded with there are certain Python scripts which comes with the SAT disk itself, basically, or say the enterprise disk, right? So there are only few, as I stated, this is not a mature, not as mature. Agentic AI still has a lot of way to go, especially because it needs to interact with the firmware, right? If at all, for example, I'm trying to restart a server, OS is there. I can have a script and it can be integrated. There are certain ways to restart a particular server based on the open ports and the command being passed on, and based on other integrations such as SCCM, which is there, right? So there are ways, but when it comes to network components or disk space, there are very less limited offerings as such. You can do it manually, but again, that is high risk. Even if you do it, it should be in a way where basically you're more putting in the checkpoints, basically. I'm from management consulting, so I always search for a process guy, right? I always search for checkpoints where we can have control so that the risk is limited. So ensuring that the risk is in place, it goes throughout especially with production systems, it waits for the approval. It doesn't proceed without the approval. These are the key checkpoints which we can incorporate into agentic AI, right? But inside ServiceNow, it works awesome because its own product data structure is in place. You have been using the system for 5 years. You have a lot of historical data based on which it can analyze, it can recommend the options. But again, you should not automate, especially at this part of the time, with agentic AI proceeding or doing something in production without an approval, right? I was talking in one of the previous podcasts where basically the production data was deleted by another offering called Replant, I believe so. Replant, Replant. I'm also getting used to these offerings as of now. So what I understood is the checkpoints are critical until this matures, right? So when it's good to, even this development has to be in a phase where you try it in development, you move to testing, you do all round of use case testing, and then finally you move it into production. And again, I would suggest production. Don't I know CI/CD has been there, but as long as agentic AI is there, I would suggest avoiding direct changes in production by the agentic AI directly, unless you have approval or checkpoints particular stages so that you can validate and have particular backups at consistent intervals so that you don't lose any production data or your production systems doesn't go down. This is all about agentic AI. So it's not a mature system as of now. We have very less offerings when it comes to agentic AI. It's basically a combination of conversation AI and workflows. It's basically useful when we can automate uh, and get things done at a instant. For example, you just need access to a particular document right now, and you need to you are working on a proposal, so you go chat with the agentic AI, and you give all the details. It validates the access compliance policies and other things on the go and grants you the access. It's instant. That is where agentic AI is useful. Okay. With that, I end this podcast. With the next podcast, we'll come into intelligent AI. Okay. Intelligent AI. Thank you.